Hello and welcome. We have an entrepreneur on deck for you today. We're going to be asking some nitty-gritty questions, getting some better information about the details of Mr. Jay Young. Jay Young is with King Operating Corporation, and he's going to explain, of course, what that entails and how they help people. And then we're also going to hear about some of his history and background and just kind of the life and some of the learnings and all the good stuff that Jay's been through. And we're happy to have Jay on to provide some of this interesting information, but also I'm sure educational. So without further ado, Jay, you doing all right today?
Good. I'm good, Sean. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that. But
Absolutely.
life's good.
Good stuff. Well, we'll get into it. So if you wouldn't mind, Jay, just give us the audience an introduction to your company and the problems you solve.
Yeah. So we're an oil and gas company. We raise a fund. Like right now, we're in the middle of $100 million raise, uh, which it could be anything, right? If you're starting out, it doesn't have to be $100 million. We're going to do 100 million over a short amount of time. But we raise capital to increase the value of a client's portfolio. And so what we do is if you're looking to invest in oil and gas or diversify your portfolio, you can look at one of our products. We have a lot of different people around the country that help diversify their portfolio. And we work with a lot of different people out in the industry that are like, there may be some people that have clients that have money that want to participate in oil and gas. And so, um, like a dentist that has looking for oil and gas projects, and he may have a following of other dentists that he has that want to invest in oil and gas. And so we go through our due diligence process with them to basically raise 100 million, and then we'll invest in like four different areas of the country or in the like we're doing the frack sand business right now. It's an oil field service business. Frack sand portion
Mhm.
of our fund will be in frac sand. So we'll have places strategically located around the Permian Basin, or we're looking at one in North Dakota or Eagleford or the Haynesville, for different types of places where you can go drill or you can go buy frac sand. If you're a major operator, you can go do that. So that's one part of our fund. The second part is we have a 60,000 acre lease in Amarillo, and we're currently drilling two wells there in that area. So we're drilling wells there. Our goal there is to drill 5, 10, 15 wells, not necessarily to have it up for sale or well, we have it up for sale all the time if it's a good deal for the investor. So we may drill 5 or 10 wells, and then we may divest the asset to a larger public company that wants to take advantage of us by buying it, number one, but number two, they have a lot. There's 100 locations, if not more than that, on the 60,000 acre ranch. Um,
Mm.
so we have that. That's also a part of Fund Three. So we have sand, the sand oil field service business. We have the Bivens Ranch. We also have a place on the Eastern Shelf called in Hockley County. We've drilled a horizontal Sprayberry wells there, and we also have the Eastern Shelf. So far, we've drilled 5 wells. We've hit on all 5 wells that we've drilled so far. We're drilling two on the Amarillo Bivens Ranch, and we also have the sand business. So that's kind of what we do is we'll raise 100 million
Mhm.
in one area, and then we'll use that $100 million to go drill wells initially, give clients 100% write off, and give them an income stream. And our goal is for 2 to 3 years, to use some low cost debt to increase the value of the fund and then sell in the next, let's say, 3 years.
Yeah.
We always put a 3 year projection on so clients can see, they get 100% write off. They get income stream that will match their investment or more. And we'll use low cost debt as leverage to increase the value of the fund and drill more wells within the fund over a 3 year period, to get that 3 to 1, 5 to 1 type return. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what King Operating. One end we're a raising money arm, and on the other side is we have a drilling engineers, geologists, geophysicists, landmen, like the
Hmm.
landman, like Billy Bob Thornton. We didn't engage Billy Bob Thornton, but there's a lot of people out there that understand, or they now know the oil and gas business because they watch Landman.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of aspects to what you guys do, and you guys have been around for a while, right?
Yeah, I'm a fourth generation oil and gas guy, and I've been around the business for a long time. And what's in this business, it's all about your vehicle and the drilling and completions that you do, um, and knowing that part of it. So you don't have to be a fourth generation oil and gas guy. You can be a money guy and do business with us. I mean, like I said,
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
bring in um, people that you may know, Sean,
Hmm.
of the people that look at this business and say, "Hey, I've got a couple of clients that want to participate
Right.
on the project, and they can get paid."
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're basically giving people through multiple different options an ability to invest in oil and gas. And so that could be with the oil wells, as you mentioned, or investing or putting money, I guess, into the $100 million fund or whatever fund you guys are raising. And then, of course, they have the option to generate cash flow or some income back into their pockets. And then even the option sounds like to sell, like you said,
Mhm.
maybe 3 to 5 years or something to that range to make money on
Right.
the investment. Yeah, so that's pretty good stuff. Yeah, we worked with an oil and gas company a long time ago, so it's actually been a while. But you're mentioning some of the things that I guess we talked about with them years back. So it's interesting. There's so much that goes into the oil and gas field, and you guys obviously do a lot. Um, so how and why did you start your company? I know you said you're fourth generation, but how and why, Jay?
Well, that's a good question. How and why? I was at a job where I wouldn't really make any money at another oil and gas company, and it got kind of, I wanted to do it on my own. I thought I could do better. A little ego in there. I thought I could do better, and so I
Sure, we
was
hear.
very, very fortunate because there was a guy that I knew. Matter of fact, it was one of my one of the people that I worked with. Their husband, um, her husband, owned their own oil and gas company, and they said, "Hey, if you'll go off on your own, I'll sell you product, or I'll sell you deals that you can invest in. I'll drill
Mhm.
them, operate them. All you got to do is raise money." And I'm like, done. So that was at the Christmas party. And then a few months later, I started my own company and started funding oil and gas. This is in 1995. So I guess the Christmas time, 1994. And then in March or April that next year, I can't remember if it was March or April, but anyway, I started my own company right after that. And, started talking about how to uh, like a finder in today's world, like a dentist or like we talked about a minute ago. Same thing. I just wanted to, you got to make money. How do you make money? Well, you can make money by doing several different things. And if you have a good book of business right now, actually, you know, you could take our product and sell our product to people, and we'd pay you. Same kind of thing.
Hmm.
I was fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I so like you said, I think this is a phrase most of the business owners we chat with utter at some point in time. I thought I could do better. So
Yeah.
so hey, look, go start your own business, go do your own thing, of course. And I think that's a lot of the mantra that a lot of the business owners we chat with end up, like I said, saying at some point in time. So I think, good reason to go off and say, hey, look, let me do my own thing. And the fundraising, I think that's a pretty valuable skill. I don't think a lot of people can do it well. I mean, there's people that do it, but I don't think a lot of people do it really well. So, it's a pretty valuable skill. And if you can do it well, sounds like obviously you were able to get started in that way. So good for you for taking the challenge on and pulling the bull by the horns, I guess, so to speak. So, um, what's been the hardest thing you've been through thus far in your entrepreneurial experience, and how did you get through it?
Um, yeah, there's been a few, I guess. One of the things that I did, I guess the hardest thing was we found an area 2015. We found an area and we wanted to drill a lot more wells. And so we used some equity and then we thought, okay, let's use some debt. And we found a loan to own company. Now, I didn't know this was a loan to own company at the time,
Mm-hmm.
or that there was so many different triggers that we could do. But I got financing with a company called Oak Tree out of LA, and they're a big, huge private equity company. And they loaned us money to go drill wells, and we drilled wells, but then um, oil and gas prices went down, the production went down, revenue went down, and so they overtook the asset. And I had personally put in a lot of money of ours that we had, and some of these wells were coming in, 100, 200% returns. They were really good. But the ones that were drilled a little bit further out weren't coming in as good. And so I had a lot of clients that had put money in that I had a lot of clients that put a lot of money in that lost their investment.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go to them and say, hey, and I'm sorry, we got involved in this, this other company to get financing, and I didn't know everything that there was to know. I didn't have any
Mm-hmm.
bankers tell me the difference, and they took over our asset, and they just kind of, I mean, there is a chance they'll get some money back, but I mean, it's like that we got pushed down to the bottom of the scale of returns, so they get like a 2-to-1 return before the new capital gets like a 2-to-1 return before we get any money back,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the chances are really good that we won't make any money. So I had to call my clients and tell them
Yeah.
that, and that was very, very tough. But I had to rethink our strategy on what are we doing and how are we doing it. And so that's the reason why the wells that we drill right now, we pretty much know what we're going to get before we drill a well. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
we had to go to a new strategy, uh, a new way of thinking. I had to find some new clients because a lot of our clients are like, okay, yeah, you may have told me that before. I didn't listen. And you go do the deal with new people, and if it works out, call me, type deal. Uh, But this is like it's a living learn type deal. Now, all those investors, I mean, they may have 200, $400,000 in, but they're worth 10 million, 20 million. I mean, it's not like they're,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not hurting for the money. We don't take non-accredited investors because of that.
Yes.
We only take accredited investors because you know what? There's going to be some ups and downs in this business with oil and gas prices or whatever. And we want to mitigate as much risk as possible, but you never know what's going to happen. So, hey, if I can show you a 2-to-1 return over 5 years, which is the worst thing that can happen,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're looking at now. And
Yeah.
what kind of vehicle do we need to put clients in?
Yeah. Well, that's still pretty freaking good. 2-to-1 in 5 years. That's like 20% a year or something along those lines. So, Um, and I'll say, yeah, there's so many financing vehicles. I know I've chatted with business brokers that sometimes they do with some of the more complex ones. There's like 7 forms of financing, between banks and private lenders and owner financing and all these different things. So yeah, it's a complex world, and obviously you guys got maybe a little bit on that particular scenario. But I would say, like you said, I mean, props, and it's awesome that you were you know had the character enough to go be honest with your clients, right? Not try to do something shady to try to make up for something that maybe didn't go the right way, which people can fall into that trap. And obviously you guys are stand-up people and do the right thing, which is kind of that's what most people I think are looking for is, hey, look, I know mess ups happen, but I just need you to be honest with me so I can trust you. And if trust is there, I think good things happen. So good for you guys on staying trustworthy. I think I'm sure your clients and customers greatly appreciate that. And obviously, that's probably why they keep doing business with you. So, um, what have your biggest learnings been as an employer since you began in business?
Um, I don't know. I was trying to think. Is that mean is that a positive or a negative, or if that's just a question? Is that just a solid? I mean,
So, hiring
don't
and,
assume anything. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's like,
having human capital is can be one of the challenging aspects of business, of course. So I feel like,
yeah,
yeah, I think people out there are always sort of curious to hear and see what people have done with their people, what the learnings have been, and maybe what they're doing now with people versus what they maybe did, early on. So,
yeah. Well, and two, it's like you don't assume anything about what you feel like that people will do. You don't. You have to ask questions. I think asking questions is one of the biggest learning traits that I've learned. I mean, it's like you got to
hmm
ask questions and don't assume anything.
hmm
If you hire somebody in the sales position, don't assume they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, or assume that they're going to do everything possible. We had a good example of a guy that came in and good guy. I like him a lot. He's a really stand up guy. But then when the bell goes off from 9 to 5, he's like sitting around wondering what to do or whatever. When that's not necessarily what we should. What we should have done is we should have laid it out for him in an onboarding process and said, "Hey, here's exactly what we expect of you,"
hmm
and told them exactly what we expect from you. And if you can't handle that, then don't come to work here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like don't guess what each other's going to do. I want to
Yeah.
work my butt off. I mean, we're in the oil business. I mean, I'm 24/7 pretty much, and I have to be because we have a lot of people drilling. We're drilling wells right now in Amarillo, and you don't go to sleep on that. I mean, you go to sleep, but if you have to wake up at any time on a challenge, but that's just what I signed up for.
hmm
Um, Different from real estate, different from other investments, but with this, you have to make sure that you're staying on. But I think don't assume
Yeah.
because you know what they say about assume. It makes an
Something
ass
about,
ass. How do you
yes.
spell assume or ass out of you and
That's an
me?
ass out of you and me. Yeah. Yeah.
Assume ass out of you. That's exactly
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things I've learned about being an employer is don't assume.
Yeah. And it can be difficult because there's so much information you come in contact with day in and day out, especially with your people, that at some point it's like you start to say, okay, well, most people know that, or most people would think this way or whatever. So you again, you start to kind of say, well, I don't need to ask that again. But in a hiring process where you don't know people quite that well, like you said, assuming can really be an issue and a challenge. And honestly, like you said, it's also important that you're giving them the information that they need to make a decision. Because if it's not the right fit, then hey, don't come on board. No, no worries. We're not
Yeah.
mad about it, right? So I like that, not assuming, asking all the questions to make sure you've got the information, that they have the information, so that everyone can make a good decision, you and them. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's good stuff. So you've been doing this for quite some time. You've seen some things throughout the years. So next question would be, what would you do differently if you started over today?
Um, what I really would have done is started the fund business a lot sooner with different assets and different models. I mean,
Mm,
it's harder to do because you've got to have $100 million or 200 million. You have to have a lot more money. So that's really not a fair question. What else would I do? I would be more. I would be more serious about not taking as much risk. Uh, and what I mean by that is like our last fund, we had some wells that we drilled that were just in areas that it was a chance whether or not you're going to hit or not, or how much oil you're going to produce. And I would have stopped sooner and cut my losses a lot sooner and just moved on, right? Instead of
mm, yeah.
trying to stay with it. We told clients, hey, we're going to stay with this, we're going to do whatever, but I should have stayed differently. I'm assuming that's kind of what you're asking. I mean, it's like, if I would have done things differently, what would I have done different? I'd probably go in the real estate business, right?
Yeah.
Real estate, somebody's going to live somewhere for the rest of their life. Oil and gas is all risky, but I would have raised I got a friend of mine, and you can read in my book, The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing. I
There you
think I have a
go.
copy around. So,
Good,
but I
good,
have a book called The Upside of
good
Oil and
note
Gas
for
Investing.
any viewers.
And
Yes, lots more info
yeah,
in that book. Yep,
and there's an audio book that you can listen to my voice. If you get tired of it,
it's a
just
good
turn
voice.
it.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah. But I've got, and I wrote in this book about a guy that, David Moore with Night Vest, and is it the I'm sorry, he's with the multifamily business, right? So those apartments, and he's done like a hundred different apartment complexes that he's raised money for over the last 10 years. And he sold, I think he sold like half of them. I forget exactly. But let's just say he did 100. He sold a half of them, gave clients back money, and then he also manages 50 of them. So
yeah,
he's got a tremendous amount of doors that his clients, love,
hmm
and he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing, and it's just really cash flowing. And he got an MBA. He got an MBA at SMU, and then he also learned the real estate or apartment business and found out how to get equity, and has a good network of people that he can get money from, and it's really a good investment. So
yeah.
I think I'd have gone in the real estate business, or I'm not me, but not many people go in the oil and gas business. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend it. I wouldn't recommend going in the oil and gas business unless you have a long history of oil and gas.
Yeah.
There's so many different things to learn. But what I would do is I would go into I'd go in
Real estate.
the real estate business, whether it be commercial or raising capital for commercial or family office or strip shopping malls or something.
Yeah.
That would be a great way. But find somebody that's an expert in controlling that asset. Like we're an expert in oil and gas.
Right.
We
Right.
know it. I've got a ton of people here that do that. They understand the oil and gas business. Not everybody does, and I wouldn't start in that, but I would start in either with us in oil and gas or with somebody else that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, can be the challenge, of course, is the competency needed to make the investment work. And obviously, you guys have it in oil and gas. You have a lot of history and knowledge and all that stuff. But you're saying, hey, I wouldn't have minded going into real estate. So basically, it sounds like doing basically what you're doing for oil and gas, but do it for real estate. So the product is changing, but the service is kind of the same. You're gonna raise money, and instead of buying or selling, either plots of land or oil and rigs and things like that to it sounds like multifamily is their apartment complexes, right? And yeah, we're familiar with real estate. We've worked with a lot of real estate folks. There is a lot of competency that I kind of gained by sitting next to them while I was working with them. So I've gotten into real estate myself. But biggest I've gone is fourplex. You start doing the apartment complexes, you're looking at that much more complex, that much bigger numbers, that much more financing. I mean, it's a big game that if you don't know what you're doing, you might have a big mess up. So and we've even seen syndicators, syndicators kind of similar thing. They try to pull people's money and do things, but they get into big troubles if they don't know what they're doing. So you're saying, hey, look, hire an expert on real estate, go raise those funds, and you could make everybody some good money.
Yeah,
So
right.
I like it.
We're
Good
doing the same
wealth.
thing as we do in oil and gas. We have the same strategy, and I took my strategy from David Moore. I was on a chairlift with him in 2015, and I said, David, how's business? And he said, man, it's unbelievable. And I go, wow, how does that work? Right now, oil and gas is terrible. And he said, I got more money coming at me than I do deals.
Mm.
And I said, man, I don't have that problem. I got more deals being thrown at me than I do money. But I said, I don't have any money because our clients are I haven't learned this strategy that you have about the value add. Learn
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
value add strategy, because once you increase the value, it's either you're making it more attractive for a bigger buyer to come by. And we do the same thing in oil and gas that you do in real estate. I mean, I wore a T-shirt to a Cardone event one time, Grant Cardone, who does real estate and you
Yeah.
know
Lots of real estate.
um, multifamily. I wore it. They said, hey, we do oil and gas like Cardone does real estate.
Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, we do it in oil and gas. So
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
big.
and that I think is not, I don't think everyone really understands, like when you say, add value, or the when you buy a property that you can add value to, kind of like you're doing with the oil and gas. People don't necessarily know what that means. I think because they don't have the competency, as you're saying, in the real estate. So how do you add value? Well, you could renovate it. You could maybe add some opportunities to make more revenue from the tenants that maybe they don't already have, right? So those are things that if you buy it and as a service, or and what part of what you do when you own it is you add that value. You make it a more valuable property, then fantastic. That service is what allows someone to sell it for more money. But you have to have the competency to know how to add value, right? So and do it effectively. So for sure, like you're saying, those can be some big money makers because you get the opportunity with a value add opportunity to use your expertise to add the value. And if you can do that, then great, you can make more money when you sell it. So yes, good points to make. Question: Are you where you expected you would be at this stage? So, given your history and kind of path, are you pretty much where you thought you'd be?
Well, I mean, we've done really well. I shouldn't say it like that. I mean, I don't know. Um, am I where I wanted to be at 62 years old, in the business, 30 years on my own? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd like to have been better. I'd like to have started this whole method, 10 years ago, 5 or 10 years before this, and
Hmm.
we'd be in a lot different position. But I mean, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I said yes, right? Yes, and I'm done or whatever. But
Yeah.
you always look for other stuff. You always look, hey man, I'm going forward, I'm moving forward. I want to do the best I can. Um, so that's a good question, but I'll say yes and no. How's that? True,
All
false?
right.
No.
So you're where you thought you'd be, but you're not satisfied. You still want more.
Right. Yeah, I'm not where I wanted. I'm pretty much. I mean, I can't complain. I got a great wife. I got a great family. Employees are unbelievable. That part of it is great. Uh, I want more barrels of oil. I wish we'd have hit more wells on our last fund, type deal. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, but that can all be taken care of,
yeah.
you know.
Well, it's good to stay hungry. Otherwise, you might get a little bored.
Exactly.
We
Yeah,
don't want you
true.
bored. So yeah, awesome. Well, I think lots of good takeaways that you've provided for folks, Jay, with some good context in terms of your story and how you've experienced them, and I think a lot of good things that business owners and entrepreneurs can take away and ask themselves how they could use those in their business if they're not already doing those things already. So appreciate you coming on, and really glad we could hear some of the tidbits of what makes Jay Jay and his success. So appreciate it, and hope you have a good rest of the week.
Hey, great. Sean, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And anyway, we're at kingoperating.com if anybody wants to get a hold of me or DM me or anything else. We appreciate that and look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, and if you want to hear this great voice again, you can download the audiobook too, right? So or go to the website. So
Uh,
all right, good
my
stuff.
wife will never listen to the audiobook, I guarantee you. But anyway,
Well, she gets it 24/7 at home, right? So
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
she gets enough. Thank you. Appreciate
lucky lady. All right.
it.
Thanks, Jay.